then let's start the strike.
Welcome to Shut It Down, the Amazon Teamsters podcast, where you get to hear from Amazon drivers and warehouse workers doing the hard work every day, making sure that those packages get delivered and processed inside these facilities. These incredible workers are working hard every day. Many of them don't ever get the recognition that they deserve. And today, we're going to talk about AB 288, which is a recent bill that's been passed in California. And ironically, this was recorded prior to the passing of AB 288. So in other words, when you hear from Gaspar Diaz, he's from KSBD in San Bernardino. And Will, he's from DAX 5 in the City of Industry. They actually recorded this show just before AB 288 passed. And you get to hear about how they participated in the process to help get it there. So how does AB 288 work? What are the mechanics of it? Let's explain it very simply. The National Labor Relations Board has its limitations. And the limitations that they have, one of the biggest limitations that the NLRB has is it takes too long to process things. And so if something takes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 2 years, guess what? AB 288, the state of California, under PERB, which is a board that oversees and regulates worker rights in California, has the right to step in and process claims or injustices that have been hanging out longer than 6 months. And so, hey, if the NLRB is not going to be able to step up to the plate and process things in a timely fashion, and guess what? AB 288 is going to make sure that these workers are heard and their justice prevails. And so what are the things that AB 288 is going to be dealing with? First of all, serious employer abuses, unfair labor practice charges, the fact that Amazon, in many cases, refuses to recognize or refuses to bargain or refuses to step up to the plate and be held accountable in the areas in which they're falling short for workers. Clearly, Amazon has stepped over the line and violated the law in many areas. And this is where AB 288 can step in and speed up this process so these workers feel like they have someone in their corner and it doesn't take too long. What are the reasons why workers would want to organize? We're going to talk about that in this episode. You know, more than 70% of workers out there want to be in a union. However, the processes have become so constrained legally that only a small percentage of them are actually enjoying the benefits of being under a union contract. And what does this process do? What does AB 288 do? It actually helps protect workers in that process as well. And so as you'll hear from Gaspar and Will in this episode, you're going to hear them talk about their life as a driver and their life as a warehouse worker and how being a driver in Los Angeles at $21 an hour, how do you get ahead in that situation? Will's going to describe how he's impacted by these very low wages in what is clearly a very expensive place to live. Gaspar has been with the company for more than 8 years and has done a great job this entire time. How is it that his time has not been valued? This huge corporation really is capitalized on high turnover while really looking past individuals like Gaspar whom have been there for a very long time. In return, they've faced union busting, fear, intimidation, division, unfair labor practices. And, you know, what's great is these workers are not deterred. Even though they identify it, and you'll hear it in this episode, you can clearly recognize that workers are participating in a resolution which is helping get AB 288 and or other laws like this passed. Justice delayed is justice denied. Workers, they feel it. And these workers, you're going to hear and they're going to speak on it. They're not giving up. And you know what? We need to congratulate them, and we're inspired by them because their voice is what carried AB 288 to victory. Now that it's been signed by the governor, it's law. And you know what's incredible is this is worker-led. These workers have led this movement. These workers have led the charge on making a change in the law. And guess what? Policymakers are following. Policy workers are getting in line and supporting. As workers went to the streets last year, as workers organized last year, as workers have done more of that this year, now policymakers are getting in line and they're building policy to support these very workers. Tune in to an exciting show.
Good afternoon. I am testifying here because California workers' constitutional rights to organize are under attack, and we need our California officials to act. My name is Gaspar Diaz, and I am a Teamsters member at Amazon KSBD Air Hub. When Amazon came to our community, the company promised great jobs with superior benefits. Years later, we are still struggling. Everyone works overtime just to make ends meet. We want to be treated fairly and to have the American dream. That's why we organized a union. We have a First Amendment right to organize and strike. But when we exercise our constitutional rights, Amazon breaks the law and the government has not had our back. Me and my coworkers have repeatedly gone on strike over Amazon's unfair labor practices. Federal law and the Constitution are supposed to protect us against retaliation, but when Amazon illegally penalizes strikers, it took over 2 years for the NLRB to rule in our favor. Even after that, Amazon still refuses to comply with the NLRB orders to restore benefits that were taken from strikers. When we organized our union, Amazon wouldn't even acknowledge us. To this day, management acts like it's a non-union warehouse. We are still waiting for the NLRB to act. How many years must workers wait for a resolution? When justice is delayed, justice is denied. But you can do something about it right now. Pass this law, AB 288, and force Amazon to respect our constitutional right to organize in California. One thing Amazon can't stop is our movement. Every day, more and more Amazon workers in California are joining the Amazon Teamsters and the fight for a union at this company. We need you to stand with us and stand for good jobs in California like they promised. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, this was at a legislative committee meeting for AB 288, right, Gaspar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how did that feel for you to be in the company of these legislatures, the legislature and these elected officials, where you are asking them to step in and start to protect the constituents, right? Protect the people that move the goods in your community.
Exactly. We've been fighting for so long and organizing and getting our warehouse, getting that majority vote, striking, and then to come to this culmination where now the NLRB isn't acting in workers' favor. Something had to be done. And I had this opportunity to have these legislatures and the people of this state listen to what's happening to Amazonians and to be that voice. I mean, I was willing to let it all out and speak for everyone.
Yeah, I think this is where, workers actively engaging the process and explaining to those that decide what the law looks like in whether it's the state of California or potentially any other state, what they can do to help move the process along. Because I do want to point out that though your testimony says that obviously clearly lays out that Amazon tries to stall, doesn't want to pay attention, the board moves a little too slow. And here you're basically asking the state of California, step in and move this up a little faster, yes. Correct?
And that's what we need. This is just another hurdle. Now California has this opportunity to do something about it for their workers and the constituents of these politicians.
The purpose of the board is to protect workers.
Correct.
And what you're saying here now is, hey, state of California, there's a bill here, AB 288, for it to do the same thing. Being a military veteran, being somebody who's, you work hard every single day. And I also want to point out that you helped bring KSBD to a majority, where a majority of the workers at that facility want, feel that they want to be represented by a union, regardless of what Amazon's response is. You guys have acted like a union, and you have pressed and gained, you've been able to make changes in the workplace. You've been able to demand those changes, catch the employer's attention. And what you want to do is make sure that they're permanent and they're in writing, and that they're a contract between you and the employer, and having a collective bargaining agreement. So first of all, thank you again for your service as a military veteran. And also, I'm assuming workers want to thank you for you participating in leading this effort in this discussion.
And I'm not alone. I mean, there's so many other workers at my site that are involved and speak to other coworkers to convince them the benefit of having a union, where Amazon is just totally disrespecting and taking advantage of employees. I mean, they're over a $2 trillion market cap company, and they don't view us as human beings at times.
The reason why I think it's important to showcase what you're doing, where you're asking the state to step in here and have and pass 288, AB 288, is because Amazon has these different narratives legally depending on what's going on and what the workers are doing. In some ways, they'll say, "Oh, those aren't our employees," for drivers, right?
Correct.
And then in other ways, they'll say, "Oh, they haven't won a union election, so we're not going to recognize them."
Correct.
But then if you look at where workers did win a union election, Amazon still failed to recognize.
Correct.
So essentially what Amazon is doing is thumbing their nose at the community, thumbing their nose at the law, and thumbing their nose at the National Labor Relations Board. And as a matter of fact, taking a position to try to deem parts of it, if not the whole thing, unconstitutional. So according to Amazon, what law does protect you? And that's kind of, I mean, obviously they may have a different answer depending on what's going on, because that's clearly what we see from this point. What you're doing with this testimony, and what all of your coworkers and other Amazon workers did by being up there in Sacramento and asking this legislative committee to pass AB 288, is saying, "Hey, when are those that are elected going to step in and help move this along? Why are you leaving it completely on our backs as workers?" Collectively, you are holding the company accountable to some degree. The difference is you want to get that in a collective bargaining agreement. You want a contract between the workforce and the company and the employer to say, here's what the next few years looks like. They have a contract with the airport. They have a contract with everybody that they engage with.
Yeah.
They have a contract with their attorneys. They got a How come you don't have a contract? And Amazon's spending millions of dollars to try to prevent that from happening. Let me shift over to Will. Will, you're from DAX 5, right?
Yes, sir.
So why don't you talk about the job that you do and some of there's a couple things I think that you've been dealing with there, right?
Yeah, sure. We've been heavily union busted at DAX 5. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, with DAX 5, they've spent the most money union busting out of any other station in the country. But our station is a delivery station out of City of Industry. I've been working there now. I just passed 4 years. And it's a rough job. It's really tough. Physically, it's really tough. You're working out of a metal box, like right now it's
on
in
wheels.
The 90s. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it gets really hot in the back when you're organizing packages. You don't have air conditioning. You don't have anything to reduce the temperatures in the back, right? And I've heard a lot of drivers as of lately, because temperatures are higher right now, people getting heat exhaustion. And I mean, I like one personal experience, I've been bitten by a dog even. It's a tough job overall.
And the driving job, which clearly the Teamsters have represented for more than 100 years. Like, we obviously go all the way back to horses and a carriage, right? So, we're not new to this space, but in a tough job like this, there's a trade-off, right? if I'm going to get paid well and have decent working conditions where I have some input into it, then I'll deal with some of that tough stuff, right?
Yeah.
Deal with a hot, a hot situation, or
Sure,
cold in some other parts of the country.
Yeah.
Then you also have, to deal with dogs, or to deal with this, or to deal with that. But the difference between being union and non-union, let's just use the dogs as an example.
Yeah.
You can refuse to deliver a package if you're union. There's a process that's already been pre-negotiated ahead of time to where you don't feel like you're going to get in trouble. If you being in a non-union, I'm just going to use everybody out of the space that it doesn't utilize the things that you're doing on the ground at DAX 5. Mm-hmm. Drivers for Amazon actually feel like they just got to deliver that package at all costs. Huh?
Yeah. There's like this pressure to not only finish on time, but to like run, to finish it early. Because
why is that the expectation?
There's like, because dispatch, your station management is always on your back, pushing you to finish your route on time. And I know at other DSPs, at many DSPs, you get punished if you can't finish your own workload on time. But the workload is already, pretty insane. This
business model's by design, right? And when workers are not aware of where they can draw those boundaries or the rights in which they have to start to exercise those boundaries, and quite frankly, to where they can sit down and bargain with the employer and say, hey, this expectation level seems a bit crazy here. How do I manage this? Because there's a trade-off. If I'm going to get paid a lot of money and I feel like the trade-off of how hard and fast I'm going to work in a tough environment is worth the exchange, then so be it. That's why you see UPS drivers typically last as long as they do, right? Is because they get paid very well. They can afford to buy a home in the neighborhoods they deliver.
Yeah.
Can you afford to buy a home in the neighborhoods you deliver?
Absolutely not. No.
Why not?
Because I only get paid $21.50 right now. The cost of living.
Some people will say, well, that's more than I make.
Well, it's still not enough.
It's not what the industry drives. Is that correct? Others in the industry make substantially more.
No, yeah, and
doing the same job.
And part of the reason why I got involved to begin with was because for years I've been talking to coworkers who either worked at the UPS warehouse, right, or knew that that UPS drivers were making a comfortable living, right? I knew that was there. I knew that existed, but so when Teamsters came, it was like, no, duh, it's like that's what I want. We're doing the same work, if not. We're doing more, but we're being paid like not even half what UPS drivers.
Is that why you have such high turnover compared to the UPS drivers?
Yeah, I mean, for one, the job is just really tough. Like for one, the pay's not enough, but then two, like the job is you're being pushed out, right? The average person, I don't think can last in this job.
And let's shift gears here a little bit, because what I want to do is humanize the situation. What happens is people have a tendency, oh, that's just a driver. It's like this robot thing, right?
Yeah,
obviously you're not a robot, right? But people distance themselves. You like to play the sax. You're a personal you got a personal life, right? Like, talk a little bit about your personal life and
sure,
and what you like to do.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a performing musician outside of delivering your packages.
All right.
My passion for music started in, I would say, high school. And ever since graduating, I have since gone back and even coached some of the band kids there, because that's where I started. Right.
That's good. So you're giving your time back to the kids from the school you came out of.
Yeah. And I'm currently going to college to get a degree in music education. Right. I'm aspiring music educator. But right now, like, I make some money, performing. I'll perform with I'll shout them out real quick. I'm with this legacy 80s band. They're called the Untouchables.
Oh, you gotta love 80s music, right?
Yeah. It's great. I mean, my parents love it. My friends' parents love it, but it's my music too. My mom, I grew up listening to my mom's music, so it's my music as much as it is hers.
Well, and the reason for pointing this out is, every driver that comes to a doorstep and delivers, every worker in the warehouse or an air hub that's handling package, they're human beings, right?
Yeah.
They're just like everybody that's listening here.
Yeah.
And what happens is people have a tendency to kind of distance themselves as they get on their phone and they order something and it gets delivered. They're not thinking about how it's kind of working through the system, right? How it comes from point A to point B and ultimately lands on your doorstep, right? It's human beings that are in this process and that are making it happen. And, with a company as wealthy as Amazon, you figure that they could do a little better with their business model. And you helped lobby for AB 288 too. Isn't that correct with state?
Yeah.
lawmakers?
I mean, like Gaspar, we went to Sacramento. I took 2 trips there. The second trip we went on the Teamster bus together.
Yes. Full bus.
Yeah. And, the first time I felt like a tourist, like it was just really interesting because like everyone talks about the politicians, like you see it on the news, you see it on the media, but it was another thing to like actually see it in person and get a glimpse at like the day-to-day life and all that, and then actually be able to talk to them. But yeah, both of us, we went there and lobbied.
And lawmakers talked to you individuals afterwards. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
What were those conversations like?
For the most part, they were, they were open to those conversations. They heard us out. We explained to them our grievances with the job and why we absolutely need this bill to pass because the federal government is failing to do its job, and we need this to come back to California. We need them to do their jobs.
And let's talk about, you just recently had another group of drivers demand recognition there at your facility. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. Another DSP. I don't know if I should explain the DSP model.
Absolutely.
Sure. So at Amazon, 6-7 years ago, Amazon drivers used to be considered employees of the company, but they have long since transitioned to a third-party system where they hire what they call independent contractors, right? These delivery service partners, DSPs. And so now Amazon argues that we're not employees, that we are contracted, even though we wear the vests. We have to wear the Amazon uniform.
What vest do you wear? It's an Amazon uniform. Huh?
Amazon vest, Amazon uniform. Yeah.
What's the van look like?
It's got the Amazon.
What's the building look like that you pull out of?
It says Amazon on it. Yeah.
Is the facility itself an Amazon one?
Yeah, it's an Amazon facility.
Looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. But then they say that's not me.
Yeah, and this reminds me of this this captive audience meeting we had. They had these educators, right? They're actually union busters. They're telling us
educators. They call themselves educators.
Yeah. These neutral educators, right?
Yeah, we're here to be neutral, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I just got to laugh about this. Got to chuckle.
And so they're telling us, right, these union busters, that you have to, if you want to organize, if you want a union, you have to do it through the DSP, through these third parties. So we did that, right? Like with Metro, this new DSP that just got their majority. And then when we do that, nothing happens, right? They keep delaying. They tell us, Amazon comes in, tells the owners, you can't allow the union to come in, right? So
Amazon exerting a little more control, huh?
Yeah.
What makes you think that AB 288 is going to help in dealing with these subjects? In other words, when the board is stalling out, the board being the National Labor Relations Board, what makes you feel as if that what you've learned on AB 288, how that process will now help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve?
Well,
we'll start with you, and then we'll come over to you,
yeah.
Gaspar. Because Gaspar's, he's chomping at the bit to jump in.
Well, for one, we've with the past strike at DAX 5, that was a ULP strike. We had many we filed many ULPs that have largely been delayed, right? And we haven't seen justice on that yet, right? That AB 288 would definitely help with that. Put these lawbreakers in check, right? And give us what is supposed to be our right to organize, right? It's as simple as that. We're being denied that.
And our right to resolution.
Yeah, right to resolution, right to organize a union.
So Amazon's model is they see if we pay them low, they're already looking for another job somewhere. By the time the legal process finishes out, there's turnover. People are different. And the cycle starts all over again. They win by keeping wages lower. Gaspar, do you want to jump in on this? How do you think 288 helps you in the efforts in which you're?
I believe that we're going to bypass the National Labor Board, and the state needs to have control and keep an eye on these corporate thugs by disrespecting and not paying fair wages. Just me being at KSBD, we've changed things since it's open. We've changed safety measures. We have demanded fair disciplinary issues, like one person will be get in trouble for one thing, the other person for the same thing, and there's favoritism.
That's why you want a union contract, right?
We want a contract. Balance. We want a contract.
For over 100 years, union contracts have been that balance to prevent that.
And they want to, like you said earlier, control. They want to control everything. I mean, we just got word that the managers, they want to start having less managers because they know the workers do the work anyway, so they can pocket more money. But AB 288, I feel is something that we need in the state of California. It should have happened a long time ago to regulate all these issues in the workplace.
Yeah, it's incredible. One of the things that people don't realize is that your city, your county, your state government, they can step in. It's always ironic that a corporation will say, "Oh, you can't have this federal government regulating me," but boy, they're quick to run to this federal agency and try to slow the wheels of justice as much as they can and argue all these different crazy iterations of the law, in a sense, just to slow down your justice, right? But the state and local bodies can actually step in and help, and they need to. And
they were the ones that allowed these companies to come in because of those broken promises.
What do you mean by that?
They spoke to the politicians
and approved it. That's correct.
And look at where we're at now. And look how many Amazon warehouses there are now.
They approved the development. They approved the operation. They approved all of that. You're 100% correct. These elected officials are responsible for it. The local officials had the ability to step in and create a set of rules. And then they say, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." And then when a big corporation violates the rules, everybody then points to the National Labor Relations Board and says, "Oh, well, that's the process to fix it." When all the while, that local government could have had its own set of rules as part of the agreement to do business. They could have had their own set of rules to prevent it from getting tied up like this. That's what you're asking for, isn't that right?
And that's why the state it's going to bypass all that. It'll go straight, and we can go ahead and fine these companies. We need to start fining them millions of dollars every time they break the law, and that's a way to hurt them. Hurt them hard.
It's got to be inspiring for you, Gaspar and Will, to see other workers like Metro just did here recently in DAX 5. To see them take the next step too, right?
Yeah.
Why does that inspire the two of you, seeing others do it? Even because obviously we're talking about the things that are frustrating, but the things that are inspiring is when you see workers take control, right? And you guys are occupying that space of taking control, because it really shows that in the end, workers are just going to have to withhold their labor, shut the operation down, say, "Look, you got to work this out. Why do you continue to make billions of dollars, and arguably even more than that?" I mean, how is there more than that? But there is, right?
Yeah, there is.
And not reciprocate to the community and not reciprocate to the workforce. How does it make you feel seeing these workers engage in this process and be successful at it?
I mean, I'm proud of them standing up just like we did, because before this movement, there was only a few people standing up, and then finally, like Will said, you get tired of it. You start talking and you say, "Hey, this isn't right. The economy's bad, and people are barely making ends meet, while you see other companies that are union doing well." And there's that old saying, and paying well. Yep. And there's that old saying, "Work union, live better." And I really do believe that. And that's what we want.
What inspires you about seeing these others do the same thing?
It shows that despite all the union busting, despite all the arguments that Amazon makes, the problem persists. People want a better life. And it's inspiring to me to, to see the movement grow.
And let's assume you're listening to this right now and you're a driver or you work in one of these operations, Amazon operations, and you're hearing this discussion. Like, I want to ask, what do you got to lose now? Like, we've seen that 70+% of workers within a week of going to work at Amazon are already looking for another job. Like, right out the gate, they're looking to go to another job. Amazon and corporations like this are exploiting that, and they just hope that the turnover keeps happening and happening and happening, because then they don't have to hold anybody accountable, right? And so if you're listening to this, the question you got to ask yourself is, when's enough enough? Because I look back on 100+ years ago when working conditions were horrible, were even worse than they are now. And in a lot of ways in your industry, we're seeing a regression. You're talking to someone who came out of the industry, who as a teenager went to work in the industry, also represented the industry over a long period of time, and have not only know the history of the industry that goes back to the early 1900s, right? And you see what workers dealt with, workers fought to change, workers literally struck to make a difference. They went on strike and said, we're not taking this anymore. Push these jobs into the middle class so they can buy a home in their neighborhood. They can buy a nice car. Their kids can go to a decent school. They can buy goods and services in the area. They were part of that. And now we're seeing this industry, the regression come where, like the statistic I pointed out, like what was a UPS driver making in 1997? Hey, maybe I'm wrong on my math and I'm crazy here, but that'd be an interesting thing to look up and actually, say, how does that happen again? Because one corporation wants to make billions of dollars off your back.
And it's insulting because after we finish peak and we have this prime, like used to be prime was 1 day, then it's 2 days. Now it's 3 and they're doing week. It's, they know they're making the money, and at stand up in the morning when we have our stand ups after peak and after prime, they brag. Senior management brags how great Amazon made its profits.
You know what they need to do? They need to stand up and ask how many people bought a home that week.
Yeah. 0.
How many became a homeowner?
Yeah, probably 0.
Right? Yeah. That question's got to be asked on the floor. How many people were, since they've come to work here, been able to buy a home?
Yeah.
Maybe Bezos or this other guy bought all these new houses here recently. Well, did he buy more houses this year than we did collectively?
Probably did.
I mean, he rented Venice for his wedding just recently.
And then there's that, right? Like, what was that, $56 million? How many houses could have been bought on that?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you guys want to kind of wrap up this discussion so far? Like, how does the slow walk make you feel through the legal process? Obviously it's a balancing act, because you're frustrated over the slow walk, but you're also inspired by what you're seeing workers do, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that dynamic.
Real quick. I mean, just talking to Will, seeing Will again when I came in today, it inspires me that he's still fighting like myself and many of my coworkers back at my site. And AB 288, it's like we need this. So like I reiterated, we've got to keep these corporations accountable in the state and to work much more efficient. I know the Attorney General spoke about that.
Yeah, you were there when
he's got our back.
That was in Long Beach.
And that's what we need. And this is a bipartisan thing. This isn't just a Democratic thing. This is a Republican thing as well. There was people that came on this bill as Republicans because they know how important this is, and they know that the NLRB is the bolts are the things that the wheels are all off on it right now.
It's limping along right now.
And California needs to lead the way on this. They need to lead the way. But we shouldn't have to go through this.
And that committee voted to support the
correct.
Yes.
But what frustrates me, and I have hope that we shouldn't have to be going through this. this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. But Amazon just lawyers up and tries to delay and deny everything they can. And that's insulting.
And throw the union busters at you. What do they call them? Educators?
Yeah.
It's frustrating. He said there were educators. You know what they call them at our employee relations.
And you guys are pushing back on them, right?
we
You're having
push
some
back.
fun. Let's talk about a couple things you've done when they cut. You look at you guys are laughing right now. That means you got some fun stories.
So-
Give me a couple fun stories.
So when we started our blitz in November, Amazon brought in some union busters, and they'd come to our stand up, and they're dressed like managers. They act like they're operation managers, and we identified them right away. We want to know who these new people are in our room. And immediately a lot of us would stalk, and our strategy was to tie them up. Muhammad Ali had a famous thing that when he used to box, it was called a rope-a-dope. Rope-a-dope was to tie him up. Well, guess what my job was? I'd tie him up for 2 hours.
You did the rope-a-dope.
I would tie him up for 2.5 hours, and the management would allow me not to do the work because they want them to talk to people who wanted the union. So I'd talk to them for 2.5 hours, and I'd make them go in circles. And he'd be trying to tell me why we don't need a union, why, try and give me his aspect on it. And I would just go round and round with him, tie him up so he wouldn't talk to anybody else. So he wouldn't say, push his agenda. Then I'd get somebody else to go talk to him, and we just tie him up so he couldn't talk to nobody.
Right. One of the with Union Busters, one of the best exchanges I heard you guys did is you called them out at one point where you said, hey, when has corporate America ever established a rule to protect workers? Like why you're telling us we don't need this process that we should put our faith in Amazon.
Yeah.
So what rule has Amazon ever advocated for to Congress to help workers?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And they were like, and they shifted and they want to talk about something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And they would bring that point about paying union. Why are you going to pay union dues? They're not going to do anything for you. You're giving up your rights. That's what they would say. If you go to a union, you have no say. We have an open door policy.
Wasn't one of them, one of the union busters drawing a union pension and actually had the gall to say to all of you, yeah, it's terrible. Over $4,000 I get a month on my retirement check. Yeah. Is not enough.
Yeah, we
standing there telling you that you shouldn't pay union dues.
Yeah, we would find out their names. We'd have people find up there. Then we'd Google them, and we would find them. We'd find out their history, their work history, who they worked for, and we'd find out they were collecting a pension.
Yeah, and
he insulted everybody standing there,
and
thinking,
they're like,
"Oh, $4,000 a month. Like, are you on to retire on?"
Yeah.
At our station, we learned they're making like $375 an hour. Right.
What?
And they're being paid for rooms, they're being paid for food, for lunch, like everything. Right.
You're talking $3-4 a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you tell some people and it's almost unbelievable, but no, they really are. And, at least for now, Amazon has to publicly disclose that.
That's correct.
How much money they're spending on union busting. I have a story as well. We at our station, they actually stopped doing the captive audience meetings because we were disrupting them so much, right? It actually led to the opposite effect that they wanted. They were actually, the meeting started organizing workers towards the union because they were showing their butts, they were showing their real intentions, why they were there. I remember one specific situation, me and another worker that I was organizing with, we were just poking holes in his argument throughout the whole meeting, and he was just so flustered, right? So yeah, like,
doesn't that feel powerful when they bring these educators in making all this money? You scratch your head, and then you ask them some simple questions, and they're stumped.
Yeah, and
they're like, because morally, what they're doing, we all know is wrong.
Yeah.
And they're obviously their only intention for them is to make money. It's actually about money for those individuals, because the only reason they're there is they're getting paid this big old fat check. And their objective is to convince you don't need representation.
Yeah. And
crazy.
Yeah. And I'll just say, and I wasn't fully naive. I never believed that like management was my friend. Right. But regardless, when I started organizing for the union and I had management I worked with, that was nice. They wanted to be your friend. They wanted to act like, there's an open door policy, right? They hear you out, this and that, and they want to help, like, oh, we're here to help you. This is family, right? And I never fully believed it, but it was like psychologically, like to start pushing for the union and then to see them flip like that was really jarring for me to see them show like their real intentions that they don't want.
You bring up a good point, because in human interaction, if somebody makes a mistake, so in other words, let's say the company or employer realizes, I could do better. They just should sit down, acknowledge that you make a mistake, and then you just try to do better. And at no point are they doing that, right? It's like they want to use the law. They want to every excuse and delay tactics. And what they're hoping that you get frustrated and you just move on. And it's a new set of people with a new set of problems. Technically, it's the same set of problems repeating in a cycle over and over again. But the reality is it shows their true character, because you make a good point. Like the employer, they had that message, but they didn't walk the walk, correct? Because there are employers that are in the industry that pay well. There are employers that, you got to give them their say. They got the credibility that somebody goes to work for them. They're going to be able to buy a home, right? They're going to be able to buy goods and services in the community. They're going to be able to be close to where they work and not have to live, 50, 60, 70 miles away and try to figure out how to commute from a much less expensive area as far as the real estate's concerned. They can do that on their own. That's something that is their choice. Clearly, Amazon's business model is not to do that. I want to thank you for coming on. I think it's really important for others to hear your story, as millions of workers are rallying around you, as the community rallies around you, as they see themselves in you. As they see themselves in you. I personally believe the reason why you caught the media cycle by storm in December was because millions of workers are in the same boat going, we can do that. And you're seeing more and more actually do that, regardless of the stall tactics. Clearly, this is why workers want to organize, because the working conditions are low. Secondarily, there needs to be better law to help this process, which is the purpose for AB 288, and kind of move into that position, because Amazon's kind of subbing their nose at it. The real power comes from worker power, and you continuing to push through it. That's the real inspiration to your coworkers. That's the real inspiration to others in the industry. So great job, and congratulations to you. I know whenever I see an Amazon worker anywhere out there, I shake their hand and congratulate them, and they think, what? No, the work you guys are doing out there is important. And, seeing workers take charge of, and they may not even be part of, the growth, but they feel after I'm done with that conversation, guess what they feel like? Oh, yeah, this is positive, because most people feel that way. And I'm sure I'd like for you to close on how you're feeling that embrace from the community, right? You're getting that?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. I've people have reached out to me from as far as Sacramento, people that have seen my podcasts or saw me on TikTok, and they'll say, hey, I saw you on there. Keep it up. It's inspiring, because they can tell their warehouse people, hey, tune into this. And I tell them, hey, the movement, it's a movement. It's growing, so get involved, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Remember, it's 100-to-1 ratio. There's 100 that you're inspiring that are not saying it to everyone that is. It's sometimes greater than 100-to-1. Don't forget that. Will?
All right. I've had high school friends that I've reconnected with, actually, who had seen videos going, some of the Teamster videos going viral. like on some of our local like city like Instagram pages or whatever, right? And they're like, what, this is
Will,
what
you're
up to?"
famous. What's up?
Yeah. And no, that's been great. And everyone, everyone I know has, they absolutely support it. You know, so it's been great. It's been really wholesome.
Well,
to
keep
have-
up the great
yeah.
work. That right there is the key. Is you are inspiring others, and for those of you that are listening, that at a later date, and you're going to be doing the very same thing. Guess what? This movement's getting bigger and bigger. There's more and more of you doing it, and at a certain point, guess what? Regardless of what legal process is there, Amazon's going to have to pay the piper because workers are going to take control. So
Exactly.
great job, you two, and looking forward to having you on again in the future. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What an impactful interview. Hearing from Will and Gaspar about what inspired them, what inspired their coworkers, and how much they appreciate their coworkers, not only joining them, but how hard the work is. Keep listening. There are more workers to come. In the next few weeks, you will hear from others that are just like these two. And maybe one day you'll be on the show too. So spread the word and follow us on Amazon Teamsters.
If you down to fight, then let's start the strike. Corporate greed is disgusting. Instead of us, they rather pay for union busting. Somebody said the working man a sucker. They took the stand and ran like a high jumper. Teams is local 804, we not having that. We gon' stand here and fight for fair contract. Fair wages on the table.